G'day guys, welcome to the RinSport channel and to the first episode of the new series, RinTips NRL. Each week I'm going to share with you my tips for the NRL round and we're going to see how well we do. And to add a little bit of jeopardy, I'm going to put a bet on each team that I tip for that week. I'm going to start with $80, spread it evenly over 8 games, and then we're going to use whatever we have the next week, spread that evenly over each game, and see how far the $80 can take us. Will we lose it all? Will we make millions? Let's find out. It's tipping time. Need some brain power. So the first game coming up in round 1 is in Las Vegas. It is of course the Newcastle Knights versus the North Queensland Cowboys at Allegiant Stadium. Conditions look good, weather looks fine. It's at 12:15 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time, which means it's around 6:15 in Las Vegas, so it's an early evening game. Looking at the teams, I just can't find a way to convince myself to tip the Knights. They got a great backline, like Ponga, Yagai, Best, Marzu. It's fantastic, but it just feels like they're missing something in the halves with Sharp and Brown, two predominantly running players. And I feel like Sharp and Ponga kind of step on each other's feet a little bit. Sharp loves to do the support play. Ponga's kind of relegated to that out the back play. He loves his goosey, and I think teams have kind of figured Kalen out sometimes. He's also coming back from an injury, so will he be on his best game? I doubt it. They also just feel like they're lacking something in the forward pack. I've heard good things about Trey Mooney coming through as a youngster, but you know, going to Vegas, starting, it's going to be a different beast. The back row is solid. I really like Dylan Lucas, but Jermaine McEwen hasn't quite won me over yet, although he did play pretty well towards the end of last year. And Frizzell is a good, solid player, but you know he's getting towards the back end of his career. So I find it very hard to tip the Knights, especially with how well the Cowboys went in the preseason trials. And I look at the firepower there with Scott Drinkwater, who... that guy just brains it almost every week. He's so dangerous. And I think Braden Burns on the wing is quite underrated. That guy can break a lot of tackles and he's more consistent these days. I thought he had a fantastic end to last year. And then Murray Taulagi on the other wing. You know, that he's a great player. Purdue in the centres. I prefer Purdue at centre too than at 5'8". He just... he has that X factor there, and I don't think he's quite figured out his game at 5'8" in the NRL as of yet. Tom Chester, I'm yet to see this talent that everyone's been speaking about, so I'm excited to see how he goes. And I think the Cowboys are a better team with Clifford in the halves. I really do. So him and Dearden, I think, is a solid half combo. Cohen Hess, Taumalolo, you got a very experienced, strong front row. There's a lot of size there. And I think Reed Marnie's going to make a big difference to this Cowboys team, which is weird to say, given they had Reece Robson. But I think Reed Marnie might just suit the Cowboys a little bit more than Robson did. I'm very excited to see Heilum Lukey back. This is a guy I've been excited about for a few years, and he looks good in the trials. He looks like a real gun player, so I'm fingers crossed for an injury-free season for him. And then you got McIntyre, who actually surprised me last year with how well he played, and Cotter at lock. They got a pretty strong bench too. You got young Kai O'Donnell, who was great in the trials. You got Griffin Neame, who I'm hearing is back from his injury, as well as McKaylee, who on his day he could be so damaging. So I think I'm going to tip the Cowboys, and I'm also going to tip the line for this one at 14 points. Vegas is typically quite high scoring. Cowboys love when it's, you know, good weather. They can throw the footy around, and I just think they're going to be very hard for the Knights to beat. I can't see the Knights pulling it off, but I could be wrong. I guess this will be our first chance to see how Dylan Brown goes in the 7 jersey. Game 2 is also in Vegas. It's the Bulldogs versus the St. George Illawarra Dragons. And everyone, I think, is going Bulldogs. But I've just got an inkling that the Dragons are in this contest. And I'm finding it very hard to split these. Knights Cowboys, pretty easy. I'm pretty happy with Cowboys. This one, I could go either way. I really could, which probably surprises a lot of people. You know, this is 2:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time, which means it's 8:30 over there in Vegas. It's going to be a little bit later at night, and The Bulldogs, while they were great last season, they really fell off at the back end when they had a bit of upheaval in the club. They do have a pretty strong centre pairing, Sherry, Crichton, Kiraz and Montoya on the wings, but they have been under an injury cloud. Not sure if that impacts how they play. We'll wait and see. Burton and Galvin, I just don't like it as a halves combination. Given they've had a preseason together now, Galvin's had a preseason to play in the 7 jersey. It's going to be interesting to see how they gel this year. And obviously, one of their big signings over the off-season was in the forward pack with Leo Thompson, who is out injured. And so I look at this forward pack and it just seems a little bit under strength. They're hard workers. They got talented back rows. Kickout and Preston, they were fantastic last year. Preston was arguably on the fringe of getting a Kangaroos call up. I don't rate Salmon. He's serviceable, but he's nothing special. And Hayward, I think, is still finding his way as a 9. So there's some chinks there that maybe the Bulldogs won't have it all together. I do really like Kurt Mann coming off the bench. I think he adds a lot. And Tupanua, that guy is explosive. I can't wait to see what he does out there. I also rate Josh Curran. I honestly can't see any reason why he wouldn't be in the starting team unless it's for impact, because he just works his backside off, and I think he's always damaging when he runs the ball. I guess he's versatile, so they can bring him off the bench in the back row or in the front row. Then I look at the Dragons, and Clint Gutherson is, what you're going to get from Gutho. He's a leader. He's always there. He puts in 100%. So I'm pretty confident that he's going to, give us what we usually get from him. My biggest concern is that Val Holmes has been out injured, and he's a huge attacking weapon for them. A lot with just the tip-on passes as well as hitting that gap close to the line. Sully, back on the left side, I'm hearing. I think he's going to be super damaging. And him coming up against, I've heard Sherry's going to be playing on the right for the Bulldogs this year. So that'll be a really good battle, I think. And then Holmes v Crichton. It's hard to set those two apart. Tui Pelotu, he looked great last year, so I'm excited to see how he goes. And a lot of people are excited about Setu too. I hear he's a tackle breaker, so it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. The halves, they don't look great on paper. I kind of like it. Kyle Flanagan is a very underrated player. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but I think he's very serviceable. And if you've got the danger of Daniel Atkinson, who in the chances he had for the Sharks, he looks so good. I think it might work well with then Gutho out the back to do some of the more long ball playing. Because what I've seen from Flanagan and Atkinson, they come into the line, short ball players, their strength, whereas Gutho can throw that good cutout. So I think they balance each other out quite well. And I think they've got a good forward pack here, the Dragons. Gula is serviceable. Couchman, I'm very excited to see how he goes this year. Leilua looking fit. If that guy, pulls in his head and gets his act together, there's not many more damaging back rows in the competition than Luciano Leilua. And Sua, we know how good he can be on his day, defense and attack. And Hamish Stewart, he looks like a good young player. And they've got some power on the bench. I think Josh Kerr, coming from the Dolphins, who are obviously my team, could be really, really dangerous for them coming on and having like a 20-25 minute impact. We saw how good he was for the Dolphins. He just plays the ball so fast and gets your team on the front foot, so maybe you'll see a few scoots from Damien Cook. I honestly think I'm going to go with the Dragons. I know, crazy. I think I'm going to pick the Dragons. So those are my tips for Vegas. I'm tipping the Cowboys to beat the Knights by 14 and the Dragons to beat the Bulldogs. I'm going to put $10 on it. I'm not confident in the Dragons, but I just have an inkling that they might take the Bulldogs down here. So I'll check back in next week and we'll see how they go, and I'll give you the rest of my round 1 tips. Thanks, guys.